Today is truly a new beginning.
A new beginning. It is a phrase that has been used by Hawaii's Governor John Waihee, a phrase that is redundant in more ways than one for the man Waihee replaces, George Ariyoshi, because he is a former governor now, but in 1974, the new beginning was his. That year, voters put him at the helm of the state's government, and this seasoned political veteran faced his toughest test, guiding a multi-ethnic community of nearly 900,000 people through the adolescence of its statehood.
And I am very proud of the things that we have done, and I think that in all of the areas we have tried to have the vision for this state.
Well, it was a very mediocre administration.
The governor, as a person, as a human being, is a very decent person.
History is going to find that Governor Ariyoshi was probably underrated.
Good evening. I'm Doug Wu. Tonight, reporter Elise Dow and myself will give you a look at the man who has been Hawaii's governor for the past 12 years.
George Ariyoshi was Hawaii's third governor since statehood, and the first in this country of Japanese ancestry. What kind of governor was he? We hope to give you some insight tonight. He says his accomplishments will best be judged in the years to come, because a major priority of his administration was to plan for the future.
George Ariyoshi leaves the legacy of a governor who once campaigned on the slogan, "Quiet and effective." After 32 years in elective office, it is difficult, if not impossible, to separate him from his politics. But to understand the politician, you must first get to know the man.
I never thought that I was going to be involved in politics when I first got involved, because mine was a very quick decision.
George Ryoichi Ariyoshi. Today he wound up one of Hawaii's most successful political careers. He has run for elected office 12 times and never lost. For 12 years he was governor of this state. That feat will never be repeated since Hawaii's law now limits a governor to 2 four-year terms. A lawyer by trade, the 60-year-old Ariyoshi has been one of the state's most politically powerful men. And yet, there was a time when politics and being governor were not even possibilities in the mind of a young Kalihi boy.
Because when I was growing up, during that time when I was a student at McKinley High School, during the war years, Hawaii was a very different place, and I did not believe that I was going to be able to even get elected as a member of the legislature.
He says back then success in politics depended on who you knew and what family you married into. His beginnings were humble. He grew up in Kalihi, where his family had a dry cleaning shop. Ryozo and Mitsui Ariyoshi struggled to provide for their family. It was a hard life and money was tight. But the Ariyoshis were working for the future.
I think of people as I stand here. I think of my parents who worked hard. They didn't care about the sacrifices they had to make, but they wanted a better life for me and for their children.
Working for a better life, that sense of duty to future generations, is the foundation of George Ariyoshi's political beliefs. It is also what drove him into politics and kept him in public service for 32 years.
You have to do things with a vision. You have to understand what it is that has to be done. And you can't do things just for today. You can't make life better for today. You have to make life better for the future.
Walter Dodds has been the governor's friend and confidant for more than 20 years.
I know it's going to sound corny, but he really has a desire to serve the public.
Dodds says a good illustration of just how committed Ariyoshi is can be seen in the personal sacrifices he's made along the way.
I think the ultimate sacrifice is the sacrifice of the children. These three adults now were young children when he occupied Washington Place for the first time. So they grew up really with a part-time father, even though George is very devoted to his family. The demands on that job, 24 hours a day, and all of the functions you have to attend on weekends and weddings and funerals and official banquets and so forth, take quite a bit away from the family. So I know it's certainly been tough for the family.
There's never been a time for the Ariyoshi family that George Ariyoshi wasn't in politics. When Ariyoshi married Jean Hayashi in February of 1955, he'd just been elected to the Territorial House of Representatives. In 1958, he moved up to the Senate, a year after daughter Lynn was born. In 1959 and 1961, sons Todd and Don were born. All three children came during legislative sessions when their father was at his busiest.
I analyzed my husband. I said, well, here's a very dedicated man, a wonderful man, one who really should stay in politics. And I called George and I said, George, whatever you do, you know, you have the family's blessings.
I've always felt my work here that I would not be able to do my work properly unless I had the support and understanding of my family. I've been very fortunate in having that kind of understanding and that kind of support.
When the Ariyoshi family moved into Washington Place, Lynn was 17, Todd was 15, Don 13. It wasn't always easy for the teenagers.
We had first moved into Washington Place, and their friends would come over, and the security would stop them and say, who are you going to see and what's your name, and take all that information down. And they used to get very apprehensive, and they would say, oh, Dad, why do they have to take down the names of my friends? Why do they have to question my friends like that?
He says his long hours and time away from home haven't hurt his family life. It just meant budgeting time more carefully.
But I often have felt that it's not how much time you spend together, it's how you spend the time that is important. And I think my time with my children, my family, have been very meaningful times with them.
Ariyoshi's made some financial sacrifices as well. Shortly after his election in 1974, he ran into some trouble recruiting his cabinet. The pay was too low. So in 1975, he convinced the legislature to give the cabinet a pay raise. Others saw that as an opportunity to sneak in a pension increase as well, and that caused a public uproar.
There were hundreds and hundreds of personal letters, many from his old-time supporters and from elderly Japanese, saying things along the lines of, you've let us down, and you know, we've elected the first Japanese governor, and now you've turned your back on us, and so forth, and it impacted him severely.
So the governor decided then and there to freeze his pension pay, a move he estimates will cost him $15,000 annually in his retirement. He chose to keep that decision private.
I always urged him, at least many years later, to explain what he did to regain the trust of those people who felt so upset by it. But he felt that that was a personal decision, and he was going to do it.
Ariyoshi's made it a point never to accept a pay raise voted while he was in a current term. So, for example, in 1974, his salary was $42,500. In 1975, that went to $50,000, but he wouldn't take it. The difference went to charity. It wasn't until 1978, when he was re-elected, that he took the raise. Ariyoshi did not slow his pace in his waning days as governor. He kept a non-stop schedule that went like this.
And I generally start the day off at 7:30 breakfast meetings. I go down to the office, and unless I have some engagement out, I have lunch in the office. I have lunch I brought in, and so I don't leave the office till 6 o'clock or 6:30. For about 4 nights a week, I have evening functions, and sometimes I have more, but I try to have some nights at home.
He describes himself as a private person who, even after all these years as a politician, still isn't completely comfortable in a crowd. He doesn't like to talk much about himself, neither to tout his accomplishments nor answer his critics.
I feel very strongly that I have to provide leadership and how to conduct oneself in the community. And for me, one very important thing is what you say against somebody else never accomplishes anything.
He's a very passive man. He doesn't have the courage because he doesn't have the conviction of principle, to assert himself.
it's very easy running for office, thinking about what you can do to make yourself look good. But that's not what we are serving for. We're here to ensure that what we do will be good for the people.
Not even his severest critics accused George Ariyoshi of failing to take his job as governor seriously enough. He often put in 15-hour workdays, a lot of time logged over 12 years. And while Ariyoshi's accomplishments seldom grabbed headlines, he is credited with keeping Hawaii's economy strong and not raising taxes, with holding unemployment down, and with protecting the island's natural beauty.
The fact that he was able to balance the available resources of the state, not only the monetary resources, natural resources as well, and the requirement to keep the economy of the state moving, it's a balancing factor, and I think he's done that very well.
He did a lot of work with international relations, which I really believe have been underestimated. And in another area, diversified agriculture, which was a tough area, and he laid the foundation for a pretty solid industry.
In 1977, Ariyoshi's administration purchased land at Waihole Valley for $6 million to prevent a private housing development. It was a bold stroke from a governor not known to have a flair for the dramatic. He didn't stop there. That year he purchased other Windward Oahu lands at Malaikahana, Sacred Falls, and He'ia, all for state parks. To Ariyoshi, the purchases were an investment for the future. That kind of long-term perspective has been his trademark, and he admits it has left him politically vulnerable to criticism that his administration planned too much and produced too little.
It leaves me vulnerable because people cannot see those things right away. But I have to answer the question, do I do things to make myself look good? Or am I here to do the things that will make it possible for our state to be good? And do I want our state to be good only now? Or do I want a long-term commitment and a future for the citizens of our community? And I have to opt for the future.
While it may have been strong on planning, critics say Ariyoshi's administration fell short on implementation. This cattle feedlot on the Big Island was one of 5 government-assisted businesses Ariyoshi tried to set up in North Kohala after a big sugar company shut down in 1972. Today, 4 of the 5 so-called Kohala Task Force companies are bankrupt, and bad loans totaling more than $3 million have been written off by the state and county governments.
I think that in a real sense, those projects did not succeed as they were anticipated, But, so it has businesses have failed to, and what we were attempting to do at Kohala during a very short time frame, trying to rush the thing so that we would not have about 500 people out on welfare.
Under Ariyoshi's administration, the state hospital has been decertified for not meeting minimum federal standards, and conditions at the state prison have become so bad that the courts have ordered improvements on behalf of inmates sent there. In 1982, when the pesticide heptachlor was detected in local milk, it sent public confidence in the state health department into a tailspin. The agency's credibility has yet to recover. Public schools fell into disrepair, but Ariyoshi says he had to pinch on maintenance in order to avoid teacher layoffs caused by federal budget cuts. He points out that toward the end of his 3rd term, his administration was spending about $3,300 on each public school student, more than double the average when he first took office. Once you meet George Ariyoshi, it is very difficult not to like him. But for a man who has never lost an election, he is a remarkably uncharismatic politician. His quiet style has frustrated even his supporters, and it has made him an inviting target to his political opponents. Each time he has run for governor, he has had to beat this man. Honolulu Mayor Frank Fossey has been a perennial antagonist and political thorn in Ariyoshi's career.
If you want to do business with the Ariyoshi administration, you better kick back part of your profit to his campaign fund so he can have enough money to buy back the office that he's had for 9 years.
I think that Mr. Fossey is a very political person, and he will say and do whatever is in his best interest that will make him look good. And I recognize that he will take a position one time, and next time he may not be taking the same kind of position. It's hard to keep track of where he is. And because I recognize that, I overlook many things that he says, and I don't let it bug me too much.
But criticism also came from his own lieutenant governors. Nelson Doy was Ariyoshi's first running mate, a man who once presided over the state senate, in which Ariyoshi also served.
He was a very indecisive person. He was not respected by the senators, and I think I can say that. He would not take a position.
How would you judge Ariyoshi's 12 years as governor?
Well, it was a very mediocre administration. The people has lost faith in the government. The able, more talented people have stayed away. They got disenchanted. In fact, some of our people are scared of this government because of retributions. Can you believe that? Because of retributions. And I'm not saying Governor Ariyoshi did that, but he was the pace setter.
Doy said his harsh assessment was given with the hope that Waihee would do a better job. Lieutenant Governor number 2 ended up running against Ariyoshi on the very day he registered his candidacy for re-election.
If you've been sitting where I've been sitting and seeing what I've been seeing for the last 3.5 years, you'd be running for governor too. A real question is, why is the incumbent running? When you're too long in power, certain things, certain negative things happen. Barnacles tend to accrue, rust sets in. There's less receptivity, less responsiveness, less openness, sometimes almost a feeling of owning the office.
It's Ariyoshi after all.
Ariyoshi swept to victory that year. It was the last time state law allowed him to run for governor, and being a lame duck in office meant his third lieutenant governor could not even be a potential political threat.
I think the governor is what his campaign propaganda said he is. He's a man of integrity, and he's a very decent person. And I've discovered those things to be true, and then they're more than just hype. He's also a very difficult person to get to know.
How would you describe George Ariyoshi as governor?
Well, I think in some respects he was a strong governor, and that was when issues directly came to him for decision. He could be very, he would stand on whatever he felt was right. But for the most part, he delegated a lot of decisions out to the cabinet or to the directors.
Do you think too much?
Well, it's not my style. I think that the governor, or as governor, I would have a tendency to want to give more direction.
Waihee declined to give a grade to his predecessor's administration, but during his recent election campaign, he did give it a rating when asked during a public television program.
Viewer asks, I hope I get this right, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being perfect, how efficient would you consider the present state government?
Oh, but a little over 5 or 6, because the fact of the matter is most state services are delivered, and they're delivered well in the sense that you don't hear about them. But we are living in different times now, and there needs to be new energies directed toward government in general. And there are some things that need to be done if government's going to be more efficient.
For the most part, Ariyoshi has dealt with the criticism as he has dealt with his accomplishments, reluctantly and philosophically.
If somebody gets very angry and wants to say something and takes it out on me, however I may feel personally about what is being said, and however unfair I may feel it is, my feeling generally is that I should just absorb it, and if by taking that I can bring back peace and calm in the community.
Most politicians, their egos are quite apparent. Not everyone, but many. And I've never found this man to have an ego, which makes me wonder why would he be in politics?
The community as a whole may not fully appreciate what is tried to do, what is done, and again, what will accrue to the community as a whole because of his efforts that were put in during the 12 years of his term.
For the first few days of his retirement, George Ariyoshi is going golfing. And then he plans to join his old law firm, Kobayashi, Watanabe, Sugita, and Kawashima. He admits he won't be doing much lawyering. He plans to get involved in foreign trade. Ariyoshi says he's got some strong feelings about the United States needing to do more in Asia and the Pacific. He's looking forward to doing some writing and speaking on that topic. But first...
You also have to learn how to drive again, huh?
That's correct. You want to give me some lessons? I haven't driven, I've only driven once in 16 years. So that's going to be an experience for me.
You're going to have to learn how to put on your seatbelt.
Yeah, it's a stupid law, isn't it? I'm only kidding.
He may miss the chauffeured limousine, but not much else associated with the glamour of being governor.
I think going back to private life, being able to do things without being looked at in a fishbowl is something that I will enjoy. The fact that I'll have greater control over my own schedule and I can have my own decisions about what I want to do and what I don't want to do.
He is going to miss being in on the decision-making process.
You know, this job has offered me the opportunity to look at Hawaii and to have some vision for Hawaii, where we must head in order for us to make it into the future. The fact that I will not be involved in that kind of thinking on a broad scale, I think to some extent I'm going to miss that.
What do you want history to say about George Ariyoshi? What do you want to be remembered for?
Well, I think it depends on who looks at it. But I think I want my children to know, to feel that they had a good father. I want the people of Hawaii to know that I've tried to do my very best, and the very best was not necessarily just to do the things that will make life good and easy for us, but that I also devote a great deal of my time trying to make the future better.
He says leaving the governorship would have been much more difficult for him had the election results been different.
But in John Waihee, I will leave behind a person who has a very warm heart, a person who has great feelings for Hawaii, who understands some of the things that I've been doing.
Let the word go forth to everyone, whoever you are and whatever path you may be on. This is your government. Come to it. Tomorrow is your future. Plan for it. This is your home. Cherish it.